Hey, and thank you for clicking play. It's been a while since I took delivery of it, but I thought it was time to actually do a video about the Philips, which mine is not a Magnavox Odyssey, but the Philips Videopac G7000. So why did I feel the need to get one of these? One of the most bizarre consoles ever. Let me just bring it forward a bit. And the reason why I had to have one of these again was because, as said before, this was the first system that we owned as a family. So my sister worked in Kuwait at the time, and she would quite often come home of a holiday. So she worked in a school with wonderful gifts for the family, and got a lot of space Lego out of her actually during that time, and my first digital watch. But one time she came home and as a family present, she brought us home the Videopac G7000. Now, at the time, I recall, it was in that period when, you know, if you wanted a game system for the home, what you were actually asking for was, you weren't asking for a computer or you weren't asking for a video game system, you were asking for an Atari. That's what you were asking for. But, you know, we didn't care. She came home with this. And I remember distinctly having arguments with my friends who were saying it's not a computer. And I would say, it says computer here, and it has a keyboard. Therefore, this is a computer. Really, it's a games console, but it's a computer. It says computer here, right there. No arguing with that. And it has a keyboard. So there we go. So as a family, we really enjoyed this, but I'm really the one that took to technology more than being the youngest of five, more than most. So I was the one that had the best fun, I think, and spent the most hours on this. I would have only been about 8 at the time when we got this. And we only had 5 games total for it by the time it sort of died. I've only repurchased 3 of these. I have more games that I've repurchased there on another pickup video, but they're sorry, more games that I've purchased because they're a bargain. But these 3 are ones that we actually had as a family back then. What's that? Cosmic Conflict, Gunfighter, and Munchkin. And there's only 2 others, Satellite Attack and Laser War, I think it's called. So they're the only other 2 that I will be hunting. Everything else is an optional extra, to be honest. My favorite was Munchkin, and so I will do a separate video on the games individually when we get around to playing them, and explain my memories about that. But my memories of the system were, yeah, it was a fantastic system. Look, this was back in the time. Okay, so getting into the really personal side. So my sister worked in Kuwait. That's where she bought the system. So it was a Philips branded, and this is where it gets quite interesting. It was a Philips branded G7000, but it was NTSC, because that's what most of the Middle East is. They're not PAL, they're NTSC. And that was quite interesting when she kept bringing us home videos of Disney films that you shouldn't strictly have been able to get back then. And they never played quite right, same reason. So how we played this back in the day is quite interesting. Keeping in mind you had more fine tuning on TVs these days, but there was definitely no PAL NTSC cross compatibility. So on the colour TV downstairs in the lounge, we could just about tune it in so that you could get a clear picture, but no sound. I think it was like a really hideous buzz. You couldn't get sound, so you'd have to turn the volume off. So if you wanted sound, which of course is really necessary, what we could do, you could tune it in perfectly on a black and white portable, especially with a turn dial, and you could get perfect picture and you could get perfect sound, but of course then you've got no color. Well, that becomes interesting, especially on my favorite game of Munchkin. And this sort of comes into something I'm very aware of in sort of modern roles that I've had recently. Accessibility and color contrast for the colorblind becomes an issue. So in Munchkin, when the ghosts, because it's a Pac-Man clone, when the ghosts are edible, because you've eaten a power pellet, they don't flash, they just change color. but there was one of the ghosts where the color contrast was not noticeable on a black and white TV, so it was a gamble. I shouldn't have been telling you this. I should save that for when I do a thing on that game. But anyway, spoiler alert, I will repeat that story. So it was quite interesting. So most of my memories on this, in all honesty, were in black and white. I was playing this more often than not in black and white. We eventually, there was a period, that's right, there was a period where we had some, I think there were Swedish exchange students staying with us for a few weeks, and they hogged this. And I remember they were, even as an 8-year-old, you know, I'm always been a male, funnily enough, and they were quite good looking, I seem to remember. I think they would have been about 16 or whatever, but I hated them by the end of their stay because they were hogging this and just playing it constantly. And at that time there wasn't even room in any of the rooms for it. We literally, I remember this clearly, at the bottom of our stairs in the house in England, which was, you know, a 3 up 2 down, traditional, you know, end of terrace, we literally sat on the bottom step of the staircase, and then there was a unit opposite the steps that we put this and a little portable television on, and that was the play area for playing the computer, because there's nowhere else in the house to really do it without impacting on somebody else's living space, because it was a small house. And that's where they would hog this to bits. Which was quite amusing. I spent some time in my bedroom upstairs, well, mine and my brother's bedroom. We shared the box room. But yeah, so many good memories of this system. Unfortunately, what then happened to our original is my dad built this little sort of lean-to conservatory on the back of the house on a patio, and it was just wood paneling, and it wasn't really sealed. And that became the play area, and it was friggin' freezing. I would be out there in my pajamas at night, you know, that last game before bedtime, and I'd be out there freezing my nuts off, playing some more games. And but the heat cycles, as you can imagine, that it went through, hot, cold, the condensation build-up, it just knackered our Philips G7000. I can't remember exactly what died, but it just got to the point where it wouldn't fire up again, that particular machine. So that was the sad end of it, to be honest, and that's what then led us into getting an Acorn Electron after that, which is another story in itself. So the rock for its back on the Philips G7000, let me just, so the cartridges are pretty good, you know, fairly standard stuff. But on the back, you'll notice nothing plugs in and out. The cables, they all go directly into the unit. There's no this sort of, and I recall one of the things that started to go, the joystick started to go on our original. And so that's a bit of a problem. Now the joysticks, and I've only learned this because I've opened this unit up. I wasn't game enough to open our original because I was like 8-9 years old at that point. But they actually are plugs on the main board. So they are, you know, in inverted commas, replaceable. And I do think some people do mods. On another version, they're actually plugs on the external of the device. And I think the Magnavox Odyssey, maybe they are, which is the American equivalent of this. This one's an Australian delivered PAL version, by the way. So I'll be able to actually play this in color, which is great. But the same thing goes to and I forget which is which, so forgive me. I assume that'll be the RF. So it's RF out, and the power. They are hard soldered onto the unit itself, so they are not replaceable componentry at all. I guess you could argue that they kind of are, because this goes straight into the RF modulator, which is then a single cable plug onto the main board. So that, in all intents and purposes, I guess is replaceable. The power unit, I don't think is. Yes, it goes into a PSU, but then that is then further hard soldered onto the motherboard. The joysticks, while we're zoomed in, very simple units, but they're quite nice. They feel quite robust, good spring back. Only got one single fire button just in the top left. Left and right are interchangeable with me. There. So you have the membrane keyboard on the top of the unit. Now there's a cartridge, I forget what number cartridge it is, that says it's computer programmer. So as a kid, I always thought that means I can create my own games. So if there's any one cartridge that I didn't have that I want to get, it's that one, just to see what it does actually let you do. But other than that, you would think that this got pretty much untouched. Well, you'd be wrong. First of all, most games you needed to use the numerics along the top to actually select your game mode. You got your reset button here for resetting the system, and there was a few others that you had to do as well, think like entering your name or whatever. But again, coming back to, and it is the game that's in the cartridge slot right now, but my favourite game, Munchkin, has a it lets you, so it has several different maze types as a Pac-Man clone, but it also lets you program your own maze, and that was done by basically typing in grid references for where you wanted it to draw lines for the maze. So my one, pretty much the whole keyboard got used regularly, and again, I'll sort of unpack that story when we cover Munchkin in the future. So that is the big question, isn't it? Does it work? So basically I got this for about $70 Australian, so about £35, and it was untested. The seller was very openly saying it was untested, and I thought I'd take the gamble after trying to talk him down, and he wasn't budging. As I shared before, he was under the delusion that never before had a Videopac been sold in Australia on eBay, which is complete hogwash. But anyway, I thought, look, at the price, it's worth the gamble. They can be hard to get hold of, but not impossible. So I took the punt. So what I'm going to show you next is the footage so that you can see what happened first time I fired this untested unit up. Keeping in mind, usually on eBay, untested means not working. Does it work? Let's have a look. Okay, so we're in the garage, which is fitting for the first test of this Philips G7000 that I picked up. There's two potential points of failure here. One is the system itself, and the other is the game. So this could be interesting. So we're going to turn it on at the mains. Now the trick with these is there's no lights, there's no speakers on it. It doesn't do anything. So all we can do is see if we can tune it in. So I'm not going to bore you with that. I'm going to try and tune it in. Let's just quickly flick through the channels that I have got. But this TV hasn't been used in ages, so I can't remember what TV I tuned the Amiga into. That's the most. Oh, it would have been that one because it's the only one stored. Well, actually, what I will actually record this, so and then I can fast forward it. I'm just going to do that. Interesting. So it's finished doing the thing. I saw it almost get something. So we might have to do this manually. There's a couple of bits where it really thinks it's found something. So what have we got here? See, that looks like it's found something. If I go back to where that's stable, and I'm going to turn the machine off. Right, so I'm going to turn the machine off and see if that turns to static. Right, okay, so that's the right thing. That's saved to 0. So the machine is putting out a signal. I'm just not getting a game, which is fine. All right, let's turning it off and on again. Okay, I just ate a lot of dust. Blowing that out, I just got a mouthful. So from here, I think hopefully this just needs a good clean. Bit of a strange update. I tried to tune. The Philips G7000 is acting as a fantastic digital antenna. Copyright strike probably. That's fantastic. Yeah, still haven't managed to. It's the best indoor digital antenna I've ever used. Look at that, crystal clear picture. Amazing. Okay, very quick update on the G7000. As you can hear, on the Plasma, I've got audio. It was doing some random beeping, so I turned it off and did the pull the cart, push the cart, pull the cart, push the cart, pull the cart, push the cart, pull the cart, push the cart. And what resulted was the game noises I'm familiar with Gunfighter, which is what you can hear now. Can't get a picture. But this is great. This means the cartridge seems to work. The console is clearly firing up. It could be a TV compatibility issue because apparently the signal from these is really, really weak. But it's a nice bit of progress and it's great to hear those sounds again, even though I can't actually play it. And let's just try the membrane keyboard for resetting. Should be this button. Did that just reset the console? I think it did. Yeah, because now it's not playing the game. Then I select number of players. Let's go for 2. Here we go. So that means that section of the membrane keyboard's working as well, which is fantastic. So now, if I get down on the joystick, oh, something's clearly shooting. I don't know what's going on. Something's shooting, even though I'm not playing. But anyway, got sound. So we'll see where we go from here. So no, no, it doesn't work. Once again, untested is official eBay code for not working. But look, I actually have some hope. As you saw there, it's clearly firing up. I believe the membrane is working to a point, and I think the joysticks are working as well because I have, you didn't see it in the footage there, but I have got the right noises on Munchkin when I move the joystick up and down to signify that my little Munchkin is actually munching. So that's all very positive. I have since tried a signal amplifier and it didn't make any difference. And I've tried 2 CRTs. One of the CRTs I got off Shane and he has a working Philips G7000, so he knew the CRT worked with his G7000. So we're not talking about a TV compatibility issue either. So I think there's a problem possibly with the RF modulator, so that's where I'm going to have to be tinkering around with. What I'm probably going to try from here is once myself and Shane have got some time, and he seemed keen-ish to help me out, maybe we can try his RF modulator in my unit, and then that will tell us if it's the RF modulator. If it is, that's great, because then either I can find a replacement modulator, possibly, maybe fix my modulator, or I could do a composite mod. So there's quite an easy composite out you can create for these. The schematics are online. And then I'll just use composite out. So that's a very viable possibility. But look, I think I've do I say done well? A working one, a proven working one over here in Australia, they can, I mean, what people list things for and what they sell for are 2 different things, but I've seen ones go for 50. This is the frustrating thing. I've seen them go for $50 and then I've seen them go for $250, depending on what they come packaged with. So 70, it was a bit of a gamble, you know, but yeah. I definitely don't think it's dead in the water. I think this is a salvageable unit and it gives me something to tinker with. And I'm actually really excited about playing these games again, seriously. Out of all the systems I had, look, the Amiga is definitely the pinnacle, but I'm almost too precious about it. I need to use it more. I need to enjoy it more because that was really the peak at that point for me. Everything led up to that. Whereas the jump from that to my first PC was good, but it was a bit underwhelming. It wasn't that sort of quantum leap. But going from this to an Acorn Electron, to a Spectrum Plus 3, to the Amiga, what a journey it was in that time. It was all fantastic, which is why all these machines I think mean so much to me, and probably why I'm being so precious about my favorite of all of them. But yeah, there we go. So I will keep you posted. And before long, hopefully, we can start doing some gameplay videos. All right, thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, and if you have kids, hug them, seriously, because just do it. Just do it. Just hug your kids. All right, cheers.